Hi, I'm Xavier Campos with the Coyote Cast, and I'm here with our special guest, Mr. Boggs. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mr. Boggs.
Hello, as he has stated twice, I'm Mr. Boggs, and I am a privileged guest to be on the Coyote Cast.
I don't know about privilege, you're just a guest. But,
That's fair.
all right, Boggs, tell us what you do in your day-to-day life as a teacher.
Day-to-day life as a teacher really just kind of centers around teaching. I know some teachers that's not necessarily like their daily priority or object.
Majority,
Yeah, I can't speak. I'm
the
trying to use
word.
fancy words here.
Uh-huh.
Pejorative is an insult, so I know it's not their daily prerogative
That's
to
a good word.
teach, but I do try to teach. So some of that, every once in a while you have grading and you have meetings you have to attend and things like that. But mostly it's just trying to, you know, work the kids through a text or through their AP lessons, things like that.
Okay. Uh, so how many years have you taught?
I am going into my 12th year of teaching. I started teaching in 2012.
2012. And how old are you when you started teaching?
I was, let's see, 24 when I started teaching.
So you're saying that you had 3 years to enjoy your 20s,
Yep.
and then straight
Uh,
into,
Fun fact, I got married early and had a kid early. So
uh,
I got married at 20. Well, I got married at 24, and then I had a kid later that year. So yeah, I didn't have the crazy 20s like some people.
are you still like involved with the kid?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's my wife. We've been married for 13 years.
hmm,
So
okay. Just making sure that
now
you
I
didn't
get it.
deadbeat it. Um, so what do you do outside of school? You're taking as someone who would go bowling professionally.
Bowling. Yeah, no, I definitely got that white guy bowling vibe,
Yeah.
but I actually am terrible at bowling. Um, I've got the other um, kind of besides coaching. I spend a lot of my time coaching, so coach wrestling, coach football. My kids are highly involved in sports and dance, and so a lot of time I'm just driving them like an Uber driver from practice to practice. I do spend a lot of time with my family. That's kind of my main thing. We like to go play pickleball together.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I had to drop it since you brought the bowling. I said, I'm gonna drop the pickleball reference here. I know. Yeah, it is
Like
what
it perfectly describes you though,
it does
pickleball.
if you think about it.
Why do you play pickleball? It's like just a easier tennis,
Yeah,
smaller
exactly.
tennis.
Yeah, so like for example, like even though I'm super athletic and
I
fast,
don't know about that.
I like a smaller court because I don't have to move as much, so I can just quickly hit the ball. Like I don't have to move as much. Um, but when you're athletically gifted like me, it's easy to win in pickleball because there's
I
nowhere
don't
to
think the
go.
court is the main reason why it's
I'm,
easier.
I mean, what would make it easier?
So, is your kid's good at pickleball or your kid?
Yeah, I had to put him in his place. He's 12, and he was surprised I beat him, and he was angry I beat him. But you got to put your kid in place. You got to let him know you're still top dog. But the first fight I ever saw was high. So when I moved here from Las Vegas, New Mexico, not Nevada,
Not cool.
yeah, not cool. Um, but I did get to tell people I spent New Year's in Las Vegas, and they didn't know which one I was talking about. So that kind of came off as cool, even though I was a poser. Um, but back in the old school, I was that teachers weren't allowed to break up fights, and
So did you
so
shot and watch it?
you had to call security because they had a student that got hurt by a teacher, and so it was like a big lawsuit and everything. So anyway, so when I first got here, the first day they used to do breakfast in the commons, everybody together, not like it is now. And so these girls kind of fight, and this girl just was hitting this girl in the face, had her like head bent down, and just it was crazy, blood was going everywhere. But I didn't know we were supposed to break it up, so I had my breakfast burrito, and I just was like, "Hey, there's a fight over there." And then all the other teachers ran, and broke it up, and they were like, "Why didn't you break it up?" And so um, that's when my brother, Mr. Fuller, who I learned out later was my brother. When I moved here, I didn't know we were related, but found out later we were related. He had to go break it up. So
Well, he's a big guy. He could probably
he's a
break that
big
up
guy.
pretty easily.
He's pretty intimidating if you think about it.
I don't know about intimidating. I
Yeah.
just know about big.
Like I mean, think about like if you're like 4, he's really intimidating.
So any 4 year old, anybody can be intimidating, other than Mr. East here.
I don't know. She's Russian, so the connections to violence go deep.
I don't know. I mean, I could lose her in the hallway here.
I've been married 13 years. I've known Mr. Vidal 15 years.
Oh, so you guys would technically be married?
Where yeah, I've known him longer than I've known my wife. Um, but so when he came to Highlands, there was an exchange program from Pakistani, and so they wanted to pair these guys up with native English speakers, and so him and I got paired up, and that's really just kind of the friendship started. Like it really at first was like this academic goal of helping him go through classes and adjust to the American like culture and
So you
academics
were
and
in school when he was here?
yeah, no, this is when we were in college. Like he
Oh,
he
okay,
was
okay.
on a student visa from Pakistani, to be part of the Highlands cross country team, but they needed like because I was an English major, and so they had this program where they would pay you as a student to help students, assimilate in that sense. So that's why we became friends. I mean, I kind of taught him everything I knew about English and just culture, and we just really bonded in that, and we've been friends ever since.
Was there a language barrier at first?
It was the first a little bit, but he actually, really now you wouldn't even like you can't hear the accent or nothing. But if you go back and to then there was a little bit. It wasn't so much because he didn't know English. It was just more like
The accent was so strong.
it was more like wrong tense usage, like so. I gone to store stuff like that, when it's I'm going to the store, just small things like that. But yeah, it was a little bit different the accent and the tense usage at the beginning, but we got through it and been friends ever since.
And you graduated college at.
I went to New Mexico Highlands University, which is in Las Vegas, Mexico, and that's where I graduated from.
And when was that when you graduated?
Before you guys were born, I graduated college in 2010.
I think we were born.
You're like 12, right?
Close enough.
Okay.
Anyways, okay, so for the first 2 years, you got paid to be his friend.
Yeah. So, um, it was like yeah. I mean, really, that's a great way to put it. Like I was paid to be his friend, but it is one of those things where because we were in different sports, we got to cheer each other on and so forth. And then him and I actually played rugby together.
Wow.
Yeah, Mr. Vidal likes to hit people. You'd look at him and you think that guy's gonna run away from fights. No, he's a scrapper. He's got some crazy stories about his time in Pakistani and like having to survive. And yeah, you need to have on the podcast. He's a really interesting character. He makes everybody else look like boring.
Yeah, I should just throw you two on a podcast.
That would be good to throw us both on a podcast. But no, yeah, he's a scrapper. Played rugby.
All right, any interesting stories there, Boggs?
Let's see. Interesting stories involving Roswell High School.
Involving Roswell High School or yourself? Any interesting things about your wife winning a pie contest that you took credit for?
No, I did win a grilled cheese contest, and my wife.
What was it, grilled cheese?
My wife actually won. I'll come true on the podcast because she'll never hear this. But yeah, she won the grilled cheese cooking contest, and of course I took a picture with first place trophy, and then
proceeded to go on to a cooking with pie.
No, even better than that. If you go back to the 2020 yearbook for Roswell High School, there's a picture of me holding the trophy because it was COVID season, and so they couldn't like figure out how to get pictures of people to come in. So they looked online. They happened to find that picture of me holding a trophy, and they put it in the yearbook. So I'm forever in the yearbook, showing that I won a grilled cheese contest, and so it's kind of funny.
Yeah, but you didn't win it.
I did not. No, she won. She's much better cook than I am. I think I'm a decent cook, but she's much better than I am.
What you're telling me is that the blueberry grilled cheese was never you.
Oh no, that was my wife's recipe. I stole it. Yeah, this is a truth podcast. We're just coming clean.
Well,
it's like the whatever podcast. We're just going all over.
Okay, and interesting stories about yourself. Something.
Interesting stories about myself. There's so many. I am a Hall of Fame wrestler back from high school. So if any students want to have fights around me, that's a bad idea because I'll be able to break it up pretty quick. Interesting story about me. Let's see. There's the story of my infamous roll. So there's a video floating around, and some of you may have seen it. But if you know the right person to ask, aka Mr. Fuller or Miss Duran, they'll show you the video of when I fell. I rolled my ankle outside the field house, and I didn't want to like eat it, so I just tuck and rolled out of it. And so it's a really funny video. That's an interesting story. If you ever want to, it's a
edit.
Yeah,
video onto this video.
There you go. If you can find it, it's a video out there. It's floating around in the space, and Mr. Fuller, Miss Duran know where it's at. So
I pray that this is not another lie, and I don't go.
No lies. I can't lie. Miss Groose is in here, but you know that here's the truth. This is the Truth Storm podcast. You know that Mr. Groose is actually younger than Miss Groose. That she was 22 when he was 18, but
that's touch and tip.
Yeah, we can move on. Anyways.
No, I mean, maybe we should highlight that a little more. I've seen relationships like that, but not that. That's a pretty big distance. What, 4 years?
Yeah. So she was a senior when he was a freshman.
So she's a cougar.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How old is your wife?
My wife is 8 months younger than me.
8 months younger.
Yeah. So we're same age.
Okay.
Unlike some people. I got teacher beef. Yeah. Let's see. I got teacher beef. Really, I think my main op is Fuller, because people like to confuse him for looking like me, and so then he like talks about how ugly I am. He's just really mean to me for some reason, but it's not my fault that people think we look alike. That's his fault. I was born first, so he's copying me if anything.
All right. And as a teacher, have you seen students change and how so?
Yeah, that's really the coolest thing about being teachers. Like it's actually a lot of fun to watch you guys go from freshmen to seniors. I see it two ways. So like, of course, because I teach regular classes, I teach freshman English, and so I get to see those kids who aren't in sports grow from being a little freshman who's kind of like just innocent and not sure how life works to being a senior that's really confident and kind of has an idea of what they want to do. And of course, on the sports side, you'll see a kid that goes from like being 100 pounds to like 160 and growing 4 inches and just really becoming a different person physically than they were the first time you met them. So it's a lot of fun actually to watch you guys go from mom and dad kind of control everything until you guys get your own car, so you're kind of living your life, and it's fun to watch you guys grow up in that sense.
They make you feel old?
Uh, no, but I'm kind of one of those weird people. I don't mind getting old. I think getting old is a blessing. And so I enjoy actually watching you guys grow up. It is crazy though, like because I have students now who are like 23, 24, 25, and so they're adults in that sense. And so I know one day there'll be come a time when like I'll be teaching, students, kids I had as students, their children. So that'll be fascinating when that happens. But yeah, it's fun to see those kids grow up and you grow up.
Okay. If you were to go back to one time in your life and change something, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for me it would be so I'll give you two answers. So I'll give you like the big life changing one. So when I graduated or high school, excuse me, I went to a small college in Nebraska, and then I had a chance to transfer to a bigger school in Minnesota, but I just felt it was too far from
Home.
home, so I didn't go. So I'd take that one, but that would have put me on a different,
Lifestyle.
life track completely. So if it was a smaller, like, would have kept me in the same place where I'm now. I wish I'd just been more dedicated to doing the things right that I was supposed to be doing in college wrestling. So like I didn't really live in the weight room, and I could have pushed myself a lot more and had better success. So that's a smaller thing I wish I would have done. Just taught myself to have a little more self discipline. And you can always wish for more reading. I wish I read more. Hope everyone here wishes they read more because it's important to read. It's the only way you can continue to get smart once you're out of school. So
So, other than pickleball and bowling, what are your hobbies?
I like to play this football game called Football Manager. So it is a game where you're the coach of a soccer team, and you set the tactics, you buy the players, and then you watch the computer play the game for you, and that's it. So you're not actually playing anything. But I like to read. Really, I read a bunch of books on theology and history. I really like reading, so that's what I try to do a lot more of, even though I don't do as much as I'd like to.
What's your favorite book?
My favorite book outside of the Bible would have to be, um, I think, Agatha Christie's "And Then There Were None," the classic murder mystery about people dying one by one. You're trying to figure out who did it.
You're a Christian man. You seem to have a lot of attributes that point towards that.
Well, thank you.
Your favorite book's the Bible. Go ahead and preach to us about why we should follow God.
Yeah, so a classic test is this. So the Ten Commandments, right? Have you kept all the Ten Commandments perfectly? You ever lie?
Have you?
I mean, I lied during this podcast, so obviously.
Yes, I've lied.
So yeah, so God's law calls for perfection. So if you're not perfect, then you're in need of someone who can be perfect. So since you are not able to be perfect because you've broke at least one of them, and if not in fact all of them, then that's where you need the Savior, Jesus Christ, who paid for your sins. And so it's not just about believing; it's about following and obeying. So that's the gospel message: is believe and follow, repent and believe. There's a secret group on campus. It's called the Mustard Collective. It's a group of teachers who text each other. It involves Miss Nahar, Miss Ingram, Miss Gruiz, Mr. Boggs, and Mr. Vidal. And
Who's the oldest person on that group chat?
It's Miss Ingram by several years.
Yeah, I forgot.
And so we just talk a lot there. Like, so we're actually a pretty close friend group. We spend a lot of time talking to each other. So that's one of the things, about being teaching and everything. You're talking about what it's like to be a teacher. It's really great to have friends that you can enjoy time with. So I really do enjoy all of my friends on that group. And there's a lot of other teachers that are on that group that I really think are phenomenal teachers. But yeah, it's good to have coworkers that you can spend time with and enjoy. And especially because they're a really good group of teachers. Miss Ingram's phenomenal. Miss Gruce is phenomenal. Mr. Gruce is phenomenal. Mr. Vidal is amazing. Um, you know,
It's not hard.
Mr. Hart, she tries. I
Mhm.
mean, I give her a 10 out of 10 for trying. So yeah, but realistically, because I'm a competitor, there's always someone who's the best, and there's always someone who's the worst. It's just
Who's the
someone's.
leader of the group?
It's got to be Miss Ingram. She could teach any subject, and she would kill it. And
Well, yeah, Miss Ingram's also like kind of like the mom of the group.
That's true.
She's very.
Well, her name's Coach Mom, right? Like that's what they call her on the track team. Coach Mom.
Coach Mom.
So that's what you could when you have your next one. If you have a next one, you have her on and call her Coach Mom. But yeah, she goes by Coach Mom. Because she's the oldest and she has really like a lot of motherly features and the way she talks to us. But yeah, no, she's phenomenal. She's definitely the best teacher. I'd almost make an argument at Roswell High, in any department. So she's really great. But yeah, I think it's good to have coworkers that you get along with, and we just enjoy
You guys
being
just
here.
like hang out outside of school.
Yeah, we actually went to Miss Ingram's and we had a barbecue. It was kind of fun. We did a bring your own meat. So Mr. Ingram has this huge grill. It's like 5 feet by like 4 feet. It's massive, and so he has this big fire underneath it. And so all of us showed up and we all brought our own meat. Like Mr. Vidal, he brought lamb because he's from Pakistan, and then I brought carne asada. And then Mr. Gruce and Miss Gruce actually didn't want to come, so they didn't come, but it was still cool. Actually, even though I made fun of her for being bottom of the barrel in our group of teachers, she's actually really fun and she's really great to hang out with. She's actually pretty funny. It's yeah, she has actually a sense of humor outside of school. I think it's funny for students. I don't know if you guys have ever thought about this, but you run into your teacher outside of school and you're like, oh, you have this other life, and it's weird for kids to see teachers outside of their environment, but most people are, I would say, different when they teach a little bit.
I mean, as a kid, and I still know this, love my mom to death, love my dad to death, but I'll always have that mindset that they live for they live for me, they live for my
Yeah.
They don't have a life outside of that.
Yeah,
I don't see my parents going out. I don't see my mom going out. So
yeah, that's one of the for those of you who eventually will go on to have kids for this podcast. One of the things you got to do is you got to continue to date your wife or date your husband, because if you have even if you just have one kid, that's 18 years of your focus being on them, and then in 18 years you've changed the person, right? So you think about even your own life, like how much have you changed just in the last 10 years? You've changed dramatically, and how much you can change in the next 20 or 10 years yourself. So you gotta be able to date your spouse. And so us getting together like that's really a lot of fun, just a chance to do them. And of course, Miss Ingram's husband's really great. Miss Bruce's husband is really great. Gabriel's wife is awesome. I've known his wife almost as long as I've known my wife, and then Miss Nahar's husband is amazing. So I like hanging out with them a lot, and so we have a lot of fun. Like I think one of our first times really hanging out was we got to do prom together, and so that was a lot of fun.
chaperone. So what you're telling me is that if you are in a relationship with someone that you decide you have kids with, you have to be with them longer than 5 years or 10 years.
No, what I was saying was just that like you should date your spouse after you have kids because like you're saying like
Date your spouse. What does that mean?
so like you get married and there's a tendency just to think like because you're married that
You have to have kids.
and you're in a sense also like you become roommates if you're not careful. And what I mean by that is like you get home from work, then you take the kids to practice, you feed the kids, get the kids to bed, and then you might have an hour or two to kind of like just hang out or relax, and then you'll go to bed. And so if you're not careful, all that time spent together will lead to distance if you're not actually actively trying to be invested in their life and making sure they're invested in yours and make sure they're a priority. Um, you know, there's different schools of thoughts on this, but like I'm a firm believer that your wife has to be, or your husband in that sense, has to be more important than your kids. So a lot of people live like their kids are more important, but that can create problems when your kids eventually leave because you want your kids to go out. Like as much as I love my kids and I want them to be in my life and I want them to be around me when they're adults. I realize though I want them to go out, be successful, have their own lives, have their own houses.
So you have multiple kids.
Yeah, I have 4 kids.
Oh, you have 4 kids.
I have 3 boys and a girl.
When's the when's the most recent?
My youngest is 5, so it's been
So
5
you
years.
turned 19.
Yeah.
Okay. And your oldest being 12. How is that?
It's good. He's almost old enough to wrestle for me, so that's gonna be interesting. So as an 8th grader, you can participate at Roswell High School wrestling. So if he does that, it will be, fun. I've never coached my kid at the high school level. I've coached him in youth and smaller things, but yeah, looking forward to that growing up process.
And would you say that with your kid, did he just automatically have a passion since you showed so much interest in the wrestling, or did you kind of like guide him into it?
No, I have really kind of like a hands-off approach in the sense of not forcing them to do certain sports. I want them to be active. So in our house, the rule is you have to do something. So whether that's music, theater, or sports, whatever it is, or the arts, you have to be actually involved, invested in it. So I didn't push him into wrestling or anything.
And out of all 4 kids, what do they do?
My kid's really big into football. They're really big into soccer, and then wrestling. And then my daughter's, she's actually really big into dance and ballet and gymnastics.
And as a father, your main is wrestling.
Yeah, that's main is wrestling from the head wrestling coach, but I then just like I said, I really want them to do what they want and have passions. Yeah, because you see it too much in any sport. Parents pushing their kids and they get burnt out, and it ends up being no fun for the kid. And so, high school sports can be very demanding and very challenging. So I don't want them to be burned out by the time they get to me.
And then, since we didn't really touch base on it, let's touch base on coaching. How much of that takes of your life? How much coaching takes up your life?
It takes up a pretty good amount. So I go. So August is July actually is when football starts for freshmen. So I coach freshman football. So we'll have freshman football from July all the way to October, and then October, I'm then also helping with the varsity football. So I go all the way from then until November. November, I'll go to wrestling, and from November all the way through February, I have wrestling. We'll take about a month off, and then we'll start up off season, and we'll go all the way to June, and then in July, football starts. So it's basically year round for me, but I really enjoy it, and so you have to really enjoy it, and it's a year by year thing. I always take it year by year, and so far I've been able to continue and have good success as a coach, and just build good relationships with the students.
That's a good approach. So, as an 8th grader, you can participate in freshman activities. So, do you
Right.
think your 12-year-old is going to participate in football as well, or just wrestling?
The way it works is you have to have no sport at the middle school available for him. So, for example, like for football, there's middle school football, so he'll have to wait. Right. There's no middle school wrestling. So I think I might, when he becomes 8th grader, have him do cross country that first year, just because really good friends, Coach Vidal, and I'd like to help him out if I can, and then he can wrestle that year. But we'll see what happens.
Cross country that's something.
Yeah.
I took it my freshman year, and it was definitely draining. I used to think I was a decent runner. I'm not compared to these people. And I remember we went to our first meet, and it was like a pre-meet, so it was kind of like just practicing. But there's people there, and kid ran. I think he got second, and he was a wrestler. He was like 230, and he was a wrestler.
Yeah. No. It's a demanding sport. I mean, it's really fascinating. Like, that like I said, having Vidal, Coach Vidal would be interesting because he has such intense workouts, and it's a lot of mental. That's I think part of the thing that made us good friends was wrestling and cross country is such a mental sport where it's really on you. So wrestling, you're still competing against someone, but cross country is pure mental because it's just you racing the clock, and so you're not, even though there's other competitors on the course, you're not really racing them. You're racing the clock. And so it's how much can you push yourself. And so I think that's where him and I became good friends, is because we both understood, like, it's on me. Where other team sports, which I love, but if the quarterback throws an interception and you're a defensive tackle, well, that's not your fault, right? But you still lost the game. Where in wrestling or cross country, if you don't push yourself, you're going to lose, and you have no one to blame but yourself. So
I mean, that's well worded. Is there anything else you'd want to put on to record? Because according to students, teachers are the only people who listen to this
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that when he is buried in the back of the ag department, it's because he went through Miss Cruce's stuff without her acknowledgement. But I've enjoyed knowing you while you were alive, so
I think I might be.
I think you're going to die.
Probably get a 0 for the day, but I already told myself I'll go to the Albertsons after I get out of class and get her a thing of Dr. Pepper and I guess Cheez-Its, but I don't think I really mess with Cheez-Its enough. But the Dr. Pepper, that was 1 out of like 8, but still, shouldn't have gone through her stuff. And that's how, that right there is a great example of Miss Grace Matt. That's how she's going to be to her kids when they do something wrong. So,
You should always try to make above whole if you can. That's a good word of advice I have for you.
okay.
You know what that means?
Go above and beyond for someone you've done wrong.
Yeah. So to make whole, for example, would be like to use this example. So, like just to return her 1 Dr. Pepper is making her whole, right? Because you only had
Yeah,
1
but
Dr.
get a
Pepper.
whole pack.
The whole pack. That's what I'm saying. Is to go above and beyond.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I'm gonna.
But if
even
you-
buy a singular
yeah.
Dr. Pepper.
But if you learn to do that in life, it'll really help you out a lot because then people will know like because it's a good way to show that number 1 you're authentically sorry, and then 2 that you are trying to repay them back for what you took in that sense.
Well,
Thanks for having me on the After Hour
well,
podcast.
this is the Coyote Cast with Mr. Boggs, and thank you guys for watching. You have to howl.
It's a great day to be a coyote. Let me hear you howl. Ho, ho, ho!